Just moments ago, the dignified transfer. President Trump was at Dover Air Force Base paying respects to 2 Iowa National Guard members and the 54-year-old American civilian contractor interpreter from Michigan. The 3 were killed in Syria. Trump has blamed ISIS for the killings, and he has vowed the United States will retaliate. And tonight, you're going to see right here on Newsmax, President Trump addressing the nation from the Oval Office. What will he say? Well, a lot's been going on this week, from a massacre on a college campus with an armed suspect still at large to major developments overseas, including a blockade on oil tankers of neighboring Venezuela. The president's address you'll see right here at 9 p.m. Eastern. Plus, what is it like to be a member of the Dictators Club? The president of Belarus and a pal to Putin, Alexander Lukashenko, gives me an inside look at the Dictators Club. And get ready for the outrage of the day. It's what a guy at Harvard did with human organs. But first to the White House, where in just a few hours, President Trump speaks to the nation in the televised address. White House correspondent Mike Carter joins me. Mike?
Hey, Greta, good evening. Well, President Trump expected to arrive here back at the White House moments from now from that dignified transfer ceremony in Dover, Delaware this afternoon. Tonight, in that primetime speech coming up at 9 o'clock Eastern time, we're expected the president to focus heavily on what the Trump administration is doing to lower prices for everyday Americans. Last week, the president said the economy is, quote, a grade A++++++. Yesterday, his vice president echoing the same sentiments.
What grade would you give the economy today?
A+++. Again, you have to understand all of this stuff in context. You have to ask yourself, what has the Trump economy been able to build over the past 10 or 11 months, given what we inherited from the Biden administration? Ladies and gentlemen, we had the worst inflation crisis in 50 years in the United States of America under Joe Biden.
Well, just a day after mixed news in the latest jobs report showing the economy added more jobs than expected in November, but with the unemployment ticking up to 4.6%, the highest in 4 years. Tonight, in a primetime Oval Office address, the president expected to address that dreaded A word, affordability. All right. Well, on the economy tonight, we are expecting President Trump to talk about some of his plans that the Trump administration is using to help lower prices, including $2,000 tariff rebate checks. Those would be for middle-income families making under $100,000 a year, $1,000 for children in Trump accounts, tariff cutouts for more than 200 food items aimed at lowering grocery costs. And on housing, of course, Greta, President Trump pitching that 50-year mortgage to slash monthly payments, calling it a game changer for first-time buyers. Skeptics, however, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, decry it as a windfall for lenders. The administration also moving this week to scrap Biden-era fuel efficiency rules, promising cheaper cars that are, quote, environmentally friendly without the scam, unquote, and gas prices dipping under $3 per gallon in recent weeks. Well, with healthcare premiums on Obamacare plans expected to spike next year by 12%, possibly higher for some folks. What will the president have to say about the 22 million Americans who will be affected by these rising premiums? We hope to hear about that plan that the president says he's been mulling over on health care maybe later tonight. And speaking about the economy, Greta, President Trump will head to North Carolina on Friday to continue that barnstorming tour that he began last week in Pennsylvania to prop up his position and what the White House is doing to try and lower costs. It's going to be a big emphasis on this tonight.
Mike Carter, thank you. And as President Trump takes action on the oil tankers going to and from Venezuela, it's important to note how dire the financial situation is in Venezuela. According to an inflation index compiled by Bloomberg, the inflation rate in Venezuela is a whopping 556%. Bloomberg tracked the price of a cup of coffee in Venezuela for its inflation reading. For context, inflation in the United States is around 3% compared to Venezuela's 556%. Retired U.S. Army General and former NATO Supreme Allied Commander Wesley Clark joins me. Good afternoon, sir, and tell me your thoughts about this blockade.
Well, I think it's a very smart thing. First of all, it is going to put a lot of pressure on Maduro. Secondly, it can be done legally. Third, it doesn't make us an outlaw country. And it can be done in accordance with the international rules of how you operate in a maritime situation and so forth. So it seems to me that it's an appropriate next step.
How do you stop or block these these oil tankers. I mean, they don't, first of all, they don't stop on a dime, but when they leave the port and they're headed someplace, and China is the biggest importer of Venezuela oil, you've got the U.S. ships there. So tell me what happens.
It's not clear, Greta, as I read this, whether we're sanctioning and preventing all oil exports or only exports on sanctioned tankers. And this previous tanker was used by the Iranians, and that's why it was sanctioned, and that's why it was legally seized. So so it's a little ambiguous to me. So if it's a sanctioned tanker, you handle it exactly the way we did the last time. You let the Coast Guard come in, they board the ship, they put it under essentially arrest by the United States. They bring it to the United States, the oil is offloaded, it's sold, the money goes into a seized assets fund in Treasury Department. The tanker may or may not be returned to its owners, depending on who the owners are, what they've done with it. The crewmen probably are released back to their home countries. But if it's a total economic blockade and everything is stopped coming out, that's a different issue. And so it's not clear exactly what the blockade consists of. Is it all oil? We're still going to be able to bring
A little bit.
Venezuela to the United States. It's just a little bit murky to me right now. I'm sorry.
Well, maybe at 9 p.m. Eastern, when the president speaks to the nation, we'll get a little bit more. Thank you, General, because we're now going to go to Providence, Rhode Island, where authorities are giving an update on the shooting at Brown University.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Colonel Oscar Perez, who will give an update on the investigation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. If we can please show the photo that we released earlier today. So we have released this enhanced photo earlier today, and I want to be clear that this is a person that we would like to speak with. We truly believe, based on the video footage that we have been watching for a few days, that may have relevant information to the investigation. So we're asking the public that you can help us identify who this individual is, as well if the individual themselves sees their picture, to please contact the police department. As far as one thing that I want to mention, I want to urge you, the public, not to rely on or circulate AI-generated images that are currently being shared on social media, as they're not verified or credible. As well, the updates and information that you're getting will be provided exclusively through this department's official channels. I want to make sure that we make that happen, and please notify the public to make sure that that occurs. I would also like to clarify and show a map. Please, if you can play the map. So the map here that you see is actually a map of the area that we have been intensively walking on those streets, canvassing the area. So as you see the blue image, yesterday I mentioned that we need the public's assistance to check their camera assistance or any sort of video that you may have that could be helpful to us, that you, as you're watching it or as you're reviewing it, you feel there may be something that we can use, please notify us. And if you need any help with that, viewing those videos, please also call us. We can come over and help you. The green area, that's color, that's when we have confirmed where the subject was prior to the shooting. The red areas, we have also confirmed that that's the immediate area where he left after the shooting. And so this is the map that actually we have so far. We've walked it all. We're still actively investigating, and we're still actively having agents, Providence police officers, members of the state police. There is about 9 federal agencies that are assisting us with this investigation, adding the state police as well as the Providence police and other municipalities. Again, I would like to reiterate, if you have any tips, please call the 272-3121 or the FBI link at fbi.gov/Brown University shooting. Thank you.
Attorney General Peter Nerona for an update. Okay. Thank you, General. One additional update from me, and then we'll be happy to take your questions. First, I want to just take a moment to recognize and honor the memory of Ella Cook and Muhammad Aziz Umerzakov, who are the two deceased victims from this tragedy, and update you on the status of the survivors. Yesterday, we mentioned that one individual had been discharged. I'm happy to report that another individual has been discharged today. That leaves one survivor in critical but stable condition and 5 in stable conditions. The parents that I spoke with today all reported that their kids were improving. So this is a happy announcement. But I know the entire Providence community, the entire state of Rhode Island, the governor and I were together at a memorial service last night, mourn the loss and offer our most sincere condolences to the Cook and Umerzakov families. Following up on a note that the Colonel made with respect to AI-generated images and other misinformation, we have created an online folder with all of the video and images that have been released. And we encourage both members of the press, but also members of the community. We know lots of people are sharing information, and we appreciate that. We think that will help with this investigation. But we encourage them to download and share the videos and photos from the website that has been created so that you can ensure that you're sharing an accurate and verified photo and video. That website is now live. It is providenceri.gov/tips, TIPS. providenceri.gov/tips is an online file folder that has the videos and photos that have been released to date, and it will be updated as we progress. There's been lots of conversation up here about the heroic work of the hundreds of law enforcement professionals who remain hard at work 24 hours a day and who are, in fact, making progress. I want to close with one additional thank you tonight. All of those tip line calls are coming into the city's telecommunications department, the same folks who answer the 911 calls, and they too have been working tirelessly. And I want to thank the men and women at dispatch and at telecommunications for their diligence. Everyone in the city of Providence truly has a role to play in this investigation, and we're grateful for their assistance. We'll take your questions. John.
Colonel, I have a question for Colonel regarding the map. As he's walking around, I want to establish actually, what's the earliest that this person of interest emerges? I believe you had said Saturday morning at 10:30, but then someone else said maybe a couple days earlier. And I recognize that it fluctuates and this is evolving. But as of right now, what's the earliest that this individual, to your knowledge, shows up on camera?
About 10:30 a.m. on the date of this tragic incident. However, so like anything else, I also mentioned yesterday that they do case the areas. They do a lot of prior checking for their crime, and so we truly believe that it could be that possibly it was there prior as well. And so we want to make sure that we don't miss anything. And so that's why we're asking the public to help us to ensure within that map area that I mentioned, with the borders between Wickeden, Brook, all those areas, Gano, that if you have a camera system, to reach out to us.
I was along I Street, Gano today. Tremendous number of federal officials literally going door to door. Would you say, just how would you describe? I mean, it just seems that this is probably right now the most massive, intensive manhunt going on in the world.
I think I agree with you on that, John, and definitely commend the men and women, obviously, and all our federal partners. It's a lot of work, and it's intense, as you stated. It takes a lot to be able to knock on doors, see videos. There's terabytes of videos that you have to look, and I mentioned it yesterday. We're looking for a moment that takes almost less than a second, and if you miss it, you're missing something that could be critical and important for us to use. And so, yes, it's definitely.
You've been watching. Providence authorities give an update on the shooting at Brown University. The killer is still out there, armed and dangerous. The police showed new enhanced images of a person the police said they want to speak with. Police are calling on the public to send in tips. Police did not call the person a suspect. Over the weekend, as you know, 2 young people were killed and 9 wounded in the shooting at Brown University. We're going to continue to monitor this press conference. Coming up, former special counsel Jack Smith appeared before House lawmakers to answer questions about his prosecutions of President Trump. What did Jack Smith say behind closed doors? I'm going to ask someone who was in the room when the record continues.
Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country.
Before Charlie Kirk died, he issued a stark warning of terrifying dangers ahead in a new book, Pagan Threat, authored by Pastor Lucas Miles. Charlie said Pagan Threat could save America and that you must read it. Get Pagan Threat free with Newsmax's special offer. Plus, get Dick Morse's new book, The Real Charlie Kirk. 2 great books with our free offer today.
At Viasat, we believe every family deserves connection. Internet plans starting at just $39.99. Available anywhere you call home. Visit Viasat.com/offer or call 8779-VIASAT to sign up today.
Not again.
Your cold is coming! Your cold is coming!
Thanks, Revere.
We really need to keep Zycam in the house.
Only if you want to shorten your cold. When you feel a cold coming, shorten it with Zycam.
From drained investment accounts and stolen tax returns to lost wages and hiring lawyers, identity theft can cost you more than you might think. That's why only LifeLock offers the $1 Million Protection Package, which covers stolen funds, experts and lawyers, and out-of-pocket expenses up to $3 million in total. Don't face the high cost of identity theft alone. Protect your future and finances with LifeLock. Join today.
Samaritan's Purse is ready to show the love of Christ to people in the most difficult circumstances. But we can't go without you. With your support, we can build homes, heal hearts, provide critical relief, and bring hope to a world in need. Donate now at SamaritansPurse.org. Let's get to work in Jesus' name.
Today, former special counsel Jack Smith appeared before the House Judiciary Committee for a deposition. It was behind closed doors. Lawmakers wanted to know more about his 2 prosecutions of then presidential candidate Donald Trump. The 2 investigations include the alleged unlawful hoarding of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago and allegations related to election interference in the 2020 election. Jack Smith told lawmakers, quote, "I made my decisions in the investigation without regard to President Trump's political association, activities, beliefs, or candidacy in the 2024 election. We took actions based on what the facts and the law require, the very lesson I learned early in my career as a prosecutor," end quote. South Carolina Congressman and House Judiciary Committee member Russell Fry joins me. I tell you, Congressman, nice to see you, first of all, is when he says what he learned early in his career, I still can't get over the fact that Jack Smith was the one who prosecuted Governor McDonald of Virginia, got a conviction. It went up to the Supreme Court, and he got a unanimous overturning of the verdict, which you don't usually get. Jack Smith would have been the last person that should have been picked to do this investigation.
I agree. I mean, from the very beginning, this was a poison pill, if you will, on a legitimate prosecution. You take a questionable prosecutor like that, you put him in. He's not even lawfully appointed. And everything that he did throughout the pendency of this case showed his political bias.
He was a special counsel, but I also blame Attorney General Merrick Garland, too. He's the one who picked him.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was, I think from the very beginning, the troubling aspect of this was that it was identify the man and then find the crime. And from the timelines, the aggressive timelines that they used, the raid at Mar-a-Lago, which was totally political, the selective prosecution, they didn't bring this against Hillary Clinton or even Joe Biden, who had, sensitive document issues. They just targeted the president in such a profound way. And it's really had a chilling effect.
But it even went beyond, because he got grand jury subpoenas of members of the House, and I think one senator and members of the House, their phone records. I mean, he was really on a tear.
Yeah, sweeping. I mean, I think it was 8, 9 senators, members of the House, conservative groups, influencers. This was all the metadata that he was collecting. And you talk about just from a fundamental separation of powers issue. This has such a chilling effect on the separation of the executive branch and the legislative branch. There's so many long-lasting lessons that I think that we can learn here. But at the end of the day, what he pursued was a political hit job against the president during a campaign.
How much did it cost us?
I think $50 million was the price tag of what he spent during that prosecution.
And what do the taxpayers get out of this?
Well, they got a show and a charade on television for a long time. Obviously, the president...
Good for cable news, I guess,
yeah,
right?
President Trump was exonerated. I mean, the cases were dismissed by the courts. But there are a lot of lessons, I think, that Congress can take with this, that these types of prosecutions should not be. The American people, I think, spoke pretty resoundingly in November that they are so tired of the weaponization of our federal government against people based on the type of speech that they have.
Well, he had no supervisor because he didn't answer to the Attorney General. He was just out there. He could go to the grand jury. He could get subpoenas. He could subpoena records. He could do raids. He could do Mar-a-Lago. He could do anything he wanted. And he had an unlimited budget.
Right. Well, and typically with prosecutors, a special counsel, if you will, there's oversight by Congress. But the way that this was set up, he was totally insulated from any oversight or criticism by Congress on the actions that he was taking. And so I think this goes to what Merrick Garland and maybe Joe Biden were trying to do was, let's go take out a political guy right now. The timelines that they used on this were so aggressive. You don't ever see this in a criminal court, that they were trying to push trial before a presidential election just to make this the show.
But they also waited until 2023 to get an indictment when the offenses allegedly occurred in 2020. I mean, so they sat on their hands until it became close to an election date, and then all of a sudden it was hurry, hurry, hurry.
No, you're exactly right on that. It's unfortunate to see, and obviously Congress is doing depositions with him right now, trying to get to the bottom of this. And let's not repeat the same mistakes again. I think you have a willing participant in the White House now. FBI director said the same thing. The weaponization of our federal government against political opponents is not something that we should ever do. Let's turn the page from that and move past it. Learn those lessons, but also I think it's important to hold him accountable.
Well, we'll see what that is. If I'd send a note to the bar. I mean, bar complaints are often worse than indictment, I think. Anyway,
Correct.
Congressman Russell Fry, thank you, sir.
Great, thank you so much.
Coming up, part 3 of my interview in Belarus with President Alexander Lukashenko. That when the record continues.
Rick Leventhal reported on the biggest stories of our time. Now he's fighting to bring you the truth, no matter what it takes. Watch The Leventhal Report, weeknights at 7 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax 2.
Drop is finally here. Drop delivers the weight loss benefits of GLP-1 injections in easy-to-use oral drops, no needles.
That's right. The two big drawbacks with weight loss injections are high costs and weekly injections. Drop is flavorless and odorless, so you can just add it to water or your favorite beverage. Drop offers other advantages over injections too. With Drop, you can personalize your dosage based on your weight loss goals.
And because you add Drop to any liquid, there's no concern about injection site infections, bruising, or dosage confusion.
Drop is the easier, safer, cost-effective alternative to help you achieve your weight loss goals without the needles.
Can't find it anywhere? The Wellness Company has it. No consultation needed. Simply order online and use promo code SLIM to save $100. Visit dropthepounds.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at dropthepounds.com/slim.
Let's be honest, getting insurance has been on your to-do list, along with assembling whatever that's supposed to be, or teaching your kid to
slow down, honey.
Drive. Fortunately, the Zebra searches over 100 insurance companies to find you savings no one else can. Don't wait. Visit thezebra.com, compare prices, and get insurance today. You can save up to $400 per year on car insurance.
Trevor!
Go to thezebra.com today.
It's the holiday season on Solitaire Grand Harvest. And now you have a chance to win a premium baking kit.
Enjoy festive solitaire adventures with fun challenges. Step into Sonny's kitchen. He's already cooking up a feast and looking for a co-chef. Tastes like a win to me. Join the millions already enjoying exciting levels and mini games. Download Solitaire Grand Harvest for free now and get a chance to win a holiday baking kit. New winner every week.
How would you live your life differently if you knew it was only a matter of time before you went completely deaf and blind? I have Usher syndrome, a rare condition that's causing me to lose all of my vision and hearing at the same time. I'm a fighter, trying to hold on to what I still have. But I can't do it alone.
Hurry in for huge savings going on now at Motorhome Specialist, now with 2 locations. Shop and save on over 1,000 motorhomes, starting at $69,995, only at Motorhome Specialist, the #1 motorhome dealer in the world.
If you watch this news show, and I hope you do, you heard the president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, give us his thoughts on Venezuela and on the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. During our sit-down in Belarus, Lukashenko also talked about his relationship with a few dictators around the world, including Russian President Vladimir Putin, Chinese President Xi Jinping, and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Here is part 3 of my interview with the president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko. Why do you like Donald Trump, our president?
Извините за нескромность.
Pardon my not being modest, but I am the only president who not only supported Trump when he was nominated to run for presidency, but I openly talked about it. So I was probably the only one. Although many people supported President Trump, I think so, but openly, no. But here in Belarus, we did. We supported him openly. Unfortunately, in America, people don't know about that, because Belarus is being headed by the last dictator in Europe, or whatever they are calling me there. But secondly, what is President Trump doing right now is very close to my position, to my visions, and the policies that we are conducting here in the Republic of Belarus. Although John is a witness, during our first meeting, I told him a few critical points on the policies of Donald Trump, and I warned Americans about a few things. John must remember these things. But Donald Trump established this group headed by John Cole, and everything I told you happened. And yesterday we discussed that as well. So I'm not a blind supporter of President Trump, but I always welcomed, I've been always welcoming the idea of Trump coming back to power. He's a brilliant leader, and during his presidential campaign, I call him a bulldozer, because he traveled across the country as a bulldozer and he won. I don't think that such a victory was possible, but he did it, and he deserves this victory, and even the God saved him, and Donald Trump also acknowledges that. So Trump is a very strong leader. The latest documents of the United States of America, especially concerning the foreign policy, the doctrine, or how it is called, it is quite decent, it is good. If it is put into practice, that it will be a gift to the entire world. In foreign policy, Trump has done a lot. We speak about 7 or 8 wars that have been stopped. He has clear goals, and he manages to do a lot. He manages to succeed. If the conflict in Ukraine will be stopped with the help of Donald Trump, he will be remembered in history forever. He won't need any Nobel Prize. He will be in history as the most peace-loving president of the United States of America, which cannot be said about any other president after Roosevelt. There are a lot of words that can be said react positively about President Trump. I'm not disappointed that I supported him, especially taking into account the previous administration that tried to force the entire world into economic or military submission. And Trump is really very different. President Trump today does everything right. And the fact that Trump is looking not only at the foreign policies, but also taking interest, very close interest in various economic and domestic issues is also very, very correct.
What's President Putin like?
He's a normal guy. He's a normal person. He has good human qualities. But in politics, he's a very strict one. He is a menace in policy, and he's a great man in politics. He is leading this country for a very long time, and the country is big, the country is difficult, so you can only envy his strength and his desire and his experience to lead such a country and to deal with issues of not domestic kind, but also foreign policy. He's a very strong person.
Let me turn to China. President Xi, you know President Xi pretty well.
Yes, I told you, I have an older brother, Vladimir Putin, and I have an old friend, Xi Jinping, whom I know for a very long time.
What's he like? What's President Xi like?
Well, he's a Chinese.
What does that mean?
That means that he's a very smart guy. He's very accurate in his actions. He's very calm. Just like every Chinese. This is their peculiarity. They are not in a hurry. They are very clever people, and they are a very ancient civilization that understands that sooner or later the problem they deal with will be resolved. They believe that to hurry up in dealing with your issues is of no use, because you may encounter lots more problems. So they calmly and consistently deal with the issues that arise in front of them. I visited China for the first time 30 years ago, and it wasn't the same China we have today. It wasn't that developed, although they had everything they needed. But then I noticed and I thought, well, China has a great future. I was the representative of the parliament, the member of the parliament, and when I came back to Belarus in parliament, I said we must build relations with China because China has a great future. The Americans were not our greatest friends then. The Europeans also tried to undermine my position and to confuse me with different democratic ideas. But I was guided by the economic issues, and I understood that China will be developing very fast. So 30 years have passed, and now Xi is the leader, China is the leader, and now the United States tried to suppress the development of the Chinese economy. And when we had the representatives of the United States here before, I warned them that China is unstoppable. You've lost 20 years to succeed in this. Nowadays, there is no one who can suppress China's development.
Why do we lose 20 years?
I have been watching China's development for 30 years. Every year there is a development revolution there. When I come there, every year I do not recognize China. They are so efficient in their activities that it is impossible to evaluate in a reasonable way. As for the latest decisions of the United States in terms of China, I've learned that from the media, Trump wants to create a bloc from 5 countries, Russia, China, Japan, the United States, and the 5th country, I think if such a union, and India, yes, India, if such a union will come to fruition, the world will be a very different place and in a very short time. It's unbelievable. The Europeans do not understand what Trump wants. So Trump is now trying to communicate with Asia, because Asia is the main center of our future development. Today, Asia is developing rapidly, and first of all, thanks to the Chinese. So China is China. It's an ancient civilization that is calmly approaching its goals, and we must agree that it's a true power.
Have you ever met Kim Jong-un of North Korea?
Yes, I've met him on the parade.
And your thoughts about him?
Just like Trump. It's quite a normal impression. Trump also thought various things about him, but when he met him during his first term in office, he gave quite normal, he said quite normal things about him. Of course, my impression is being influenced by the media when I read something about Kim Jong-un. But when I talked to him, I saw quite a normal person who knows his place in the world. He is not a phantom. He is a decent person. You know, that meeting was very short, but that's the impression I had. I am sure that my impression is true. You can talk to him, you can agree with him.
How important is the relationship between the United States and Belarus?
I believe that we will agree on our relations. We are quite similar to each other. We have European descent in common, and we will be able to agree, maybe based on pragmatics. Americans are pragmatic. We are as well. So I believe that if we set the main issues we should deal on, we will agree on that. I've passed to John Cole certain ideas and certain issues, and this is what should we work on. We should stop fighting each other, especially those who are allies. Why do we have that relationship with the United States of America? What have we done against this country? Nothing. So why do you look at us? Why don't you like us? I believe that the result of the dialogue we are now having will be able to agree on everything. And I said to those who came, you need to be able to accept defeat. Even such a large country as the United States of America, if in the year 2020, you helped to attack us, not you personally, but at that time you were allies with them. So if you were defeated, well, you should just live with it. We shouldn't be shouting everywhere that we were defeated, but we should just communicate and move on. So I would like for my country to have nice relationship with this country. I'm a president who is about to leave, so I don't want the issues under my leadership to be passed down to the new generation. Each new generation should solve their own questions and problems by themselves. So our generation, Trump, Lukashenko, we have these problems and we should agree on them and we should resolve them. And we have common spheres of interest where we can assist each other. For example, Venezuela, you mentioned, we can work there together. And I yesterday told John Cole that it will be for free. I don't need anything. We will be working together for the interest of the Venezuelan people to live in peace and for Americans to not die on foreign territories for gold, oil, or metals, or fighting against drugs. Where there's a possibility to maintain lives, we should do that. Well, we, no matter how good it is, when we are on the other side, we should stay here. That's why we will agree.
Mr. President, it's very nice to have had the chance to talk to you.
I'm grateful to you for coming And I thank your John Cole, the special envoy, for taking you with him.
I heard that you called me, either you said I was a wolf or not a wolf.
Well, you're living with a person who is very strong. You should understand who is a strong person.
Thank you.
There he is. And I'm not sure how you live with him, but you do live with him. So this is what you have.
Coming up, President Trump is buddying up with one of Venezuela's neighbors. Which neighbor? That answer when the record continues.
I'm John Glasgow, and whether the story is right here in New York City in a courthouse or at the border wall in Arizona, we're going to be boots on the ground to bring you all the facts to make sure that you get the story straight, because that's what's important to us right here at Newsmax.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, I have an important message about security. Write down the number on your screen so you can call when I finish. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. This is a lock for your life insurance, a rate lock that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. But be careful. Many policies you see do not have one. But you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. Call this number to learn more. This plan was designed with a rate lock for people on a fixed income who want life insurance that fits their budget and is simple to get. Coverage options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. Act now, and your rate will be locked in for life. It will never increase, guaranteed. This is lifelong coverage that can never be canceled as long as you pay your premiums, guaranteed. And your acceptance is guaranteed, with no health questions. You cannot be turned down because of your health. Call for your information kit and read about this rate lock for yourself. You'll also get a free beneficiary planner. Both are free with no obligation. Don't miss out. Call for information, then decide. Read about the 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. Don't wait. Call this number now.
Call now and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record important information and your final wishes. And it's yours, free, just for calling. So don't wait. Call 1-800-524-7600 for your free information. That's 1-800-524-7600. There's no risk or obligation. That number again is 1-800-524-7600. That's 1-800-524-7600. So call now.
At Lumber Liquidators, we have the best prices on flooring, and we guarantee it. Find a lower price, we will beat it with our best price guarantee. We have over 200 stores nationwide. Find yours at lumberliquidators.com. Tell them Tom sent you.
What a day in college football.
This is the playoff. Nothing here will be easy. There will be comebacks and upsets, dynasties and dark horses. So lean in, flip out, and strap in for some campus chaos. 12 teams, one epic finish. This is the wild world of college football. First round coverage of the college football playoff begins Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on TNT and HBO Max.
I'm Guy Fieri, and I'm asking for your help in supporting the Tunnel to Towers Foundation as it continues to pay off the mortgages for fallen first responders and Gold Star families who have died in the line of duty and left behind young children. Not only that, but they are also building mortgage-free smart homes for catastrophically injured service members and have recently committed to eradicating homelessness amongst our veterans. We ask you to join us on our mission to do good. Go to T2T.org and donate today.
President Trump is turning up the heat on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. First, President Trump ordered a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers going in and out of Venezuela, and now the president is buddying up with one of Venezuela's neighbors. That neighbor is the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago is the southernmost island country in the Caribbean. It's located just off the coast of Venezuela. National Security Correspondent Carla Babb is here with more. Carla.
Yes, the government of Trinidad and Tobago has now agreed to allow U.S. military access to its airports in the coming weeks. This is coming as President Donald Trump designated the Venezuelan government a terrorist organization and ordered that complete blockade you mentioned of all sanctioned oil tankers there. In a post on Truth Social, he wrote, "Venezuela is completely surrounded by the largest armada ever assembled in the history of South America." He said the illegitimate Maduro regime is using the oil to finance themselves, drugs, terrorism, human trafficking, murder, and kidnapping. Now, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has vowed to defend his homeland, telling Venezuelans that peace will always prevail. The U.S. military has built up a massive amount of force off the coast of Venezuela, including an aircraft carrier strike group and an amphibious ready group that could be used in a land assault. The U.S. seized one sanctioned oil tanker last week as the administration has continued an airstrike campaign in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific against boats it suspects of smuggling drugs to the United States. The 25 strikes have killed at least 95 people. The administration maintaining the legal narco-terror targets, with some legal experts calling the strikes unlawful extrajudicial killings. 2 survivors of the first strike on September 2nd were killed by U.S. forces in a subsequent strike after their boat was shipwrecked in what critics have called a potential war crime. Now, members of the House and Senate Armed Services Committee viewed the entire video of those September 2nd strikes today. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said yesterday he would not share the entire strike video with the public, but after viewing the video today, Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal said Americans absolutely need to see it.
I think they would be shocked, sickened, even ashamed by this second video. And there is no justification for withholding this second video when the other videos have already been shown.
Now, Greta, lawmakers say there needs to be an investigation that would include a subpoena of all records, videos, and after-action reports. The National Defense Authorization Act just passed by the Senate. Greta, you and I were talking about that a few days ago. It includes $900 billion in defense programs, and it also includes a line withholding part of Pete Hegseth's travel budget until he provides both the unedited video of the strikes and the orders authorizing them.
All right, before I ask a question, a little proselytizing by me. Aruba is only 19 miles away and has human trafficking and drug smuggling as well, getting it all from Venezuela. But that's my gripe with Aruba. All right, the seized tanker, what are we doing with it?
So the president has said we could use the oil potentially, and in response, Venezuela is preparing for other potential sanctioned. They're basically preparing for war. Venezuela's Navy is now escorting vessels carrying petroleum products out of Venezuela. Now, the ones that they have escorted so far, Greta, they're not on the current list of sanctioned oil vessels.
But that's weird because Trump has designated the Venezuelan government foreign terrorist organization, which means that anybody who helps anything with Venezuela, so even those, quote, unsanctioned boats, if they're taking oil out of Venezuela, they're part of this, they're helping.
Well, I don't know if you're trying to read his playbook ahead of schedule. I don't know. But for now, nobody is stopping those that are not on that sanctioned list. And the Venezuelan Navy continues to escort
All right,
those.
well, we'll see 9 o'clock tonight here on Newsmax and see if President Trump does mention anything about Venezuela, because it certainly is heating up. Carla Babb, thank you very much. Coming up, a man and his wife caught stealing and selling body parts from Harvard Medical School. That when the record continues.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time.
Nobody
Everybody knows Corvettes like McMulkin Chevrolet, the world's largest Corvette dealer for 4 consecutive years. Last year, over 1,800 new Corvettes were purchased from McMulkin Chevrolet, setting a record for the highest number of new Corvettes ever sold in a calendar year by one single dealership. Experience why Corvette enthusiasts from all over the USA continue to choose McMulkin Chevrolet, with hundreds of Corvettes in stock and ready for immediate delivery nationwide.
Hi, I'm Trudy of Johnny Chick's Home and Hardware. Customers ask me all the time how to prepare for cold weather and avoid costly plumbing problems. My answer is the Freeze Miser. It installs in seconds without tools and activates only when the water temperature drops below 37 degrees. The Freeze Miser releases the minimal amount of water needed to prevent freezing. It's perfect for your home, farm and ranch, RV, water wells, and much more. Ask for the Freeze Miser at your favorite hardware or farm and ranch store, or go to freezemiser.com.
Samaritan's Purse is ready to show the love of Christ to people in the most difficult circumstances. But we can't go without you. With your support, we can build homes, heal hearts, provide critical relief, and bring hope to a world in need. Donate now at SamaritansPurse.org. Let's get to work in Jesus' name.
Total Beets Ultimate Heart Health is the newest innovation from America's best-selling Beets brand. Ultimate Heart Health contains a key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support, plus CoQ10 for even better heart health. Find Total Beets Ultimate Heart Health at Walmart today.
Is Pilates for you? Well, this is Club Pilates, and we think it's for everybody, because that's the point of Pilates, to feel strong and balanced and good. Exactly. Everybody Club Pilates.
Now, our outrage of the day. You are not going to believe this one. It is so horrible. According to the Department of Justice, former morgue manager at Harvard Medical School, Cedric Lodge, has been sentenced to 8 years in prison. Why? Well, in May, he pleaded guilty to stealing and selling body parts that were donated to Harvard for scientific research. You better sit down, though. The stolen body parts included internal organs, brains, skin, hands, faces, and dissected heads. According to the Department of Justice, Lodge and his wife, Denise, stole the body parts from the school. The couple then took the stolen body parts to their home in New Hampshire, as well as to 2 other locations in Massachusetts and Pennsylvania. From those locations, the couple then shipped the body parts to buyers in other states. Once Harvard became aware of Lodge's illegal scheme in May of 2023, he was fired. And now, after pleading guilty, Lodge is serving 8 years in prison. His wife has been sentenced to only 1 year in prison. That is our outrage of the day. Meanwhile, a school in Kansas has dismissed its students early for winter break. It's not an early Christmas gift, but rather action taken after kids got sick. The school has between 250 and 300 students, and on Monday, officials said about 25 to 35% of their students were absent. The school says symptoms range from vomiting, fever, strep throat, and headaches. Some students had RSV and the flu, and on Monday, the principal said, quote, the phone was ringing off the wall of kids being sick, end quote. So classes are scheduled to resume now January 5. Coming up, a wild chase caught on video. You're going to see it after the break.
You know, folks, I thank God for my wonderful wife, my kids, my country, the greatest nation ever. And Americans like you who believe in the truth, the Chris Salcedo Show will never stop fighting for you.
The Chris Salcedo Show, for the news you need to know.
People always ask, why Patriot Gold Group? With over 10,000 clients to date and over $1 billion in transactions, not a single complaint on the Better Business Bureau. Consumer Affairs top rated for 9 years in a row. Over 2,000 5-star reviews. The only company nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the no fee for life IRA. Gold is up 80% in the last 28 months, 275% since Lehman Brothers collapsed. We are patriots protecting patriots. Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 888-528-4290 before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer 9 years in a row. Call now, 888-528-4290.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
When Betty and George turned 50, they figured out that switching 2 unlimited lines from big wireless to consumer cellular could save people up to $600 a year. So they made the switch and started splurging on date night. And it became their favorite night. No, don't you dare. It's an acquired taste. If you're over 50, get 2 unlimited lines for $30 each. And right now, get your second month free. Call Consumer Cellular.
It's the Blue Compass RV annual Blue Tag clearance. Save over 40% on select new RVs during our largest sale of the year. Plus, every RV comes with a 1-year VIP membership to RV Complete, a $5,000 value. Visit us online or in store today.
This isn't your average pill. This is Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks is a fast-acting solution because it dissolves under your tongue. Rose Sparks. Guys, get started today.
Connect with a provider to find out if Rose Sparks are right for you.
I am a coach and an alum of Girls on the Run. Kids today carry a lot of stress, from school pressure to social isolation to overuse of devices. We create a space where girls can connect, build confidence, and learn skills like managing emotions, setting goals, and speaking up. Each child's experience is different, and families need support. I'm proud to be part of a comprehensive solution to youth mental health. Get involved today at EmpowerOurFutureCoalition.com.
This week in Oklahoma, the Tulsa Police Department responded to a neighborhood disturbance, and that disturbance? A pig on the loose. Let's hear it. Not pictured, the pig was captured safely by animal control and retired from his now criminal career. Chris Salcedo Show is up next. Have a great evening. 9 p.m. Eastern, right here, President Trump on Newsmax.